Got the Mariana Blue.
Got the Mariana's Blue. Well. How's it going today?
Things are really good. It's Monday morning after Easter, and the island stays the same every day and changes every day. Somehow
Yeah, so where in the world are we right now? And you're Jim, correct?
I am Jim Kingman. I am here on the beautiful island of Saipan, which is in the Commonwealth of the Northern Marianas Islands, is the newest and smallest and most remote of the parts of America. We are an unincorporated territory, so much like Puerto Rico, the U.S. Virgin Islands, American Samoa, or Guam. Those are our peer jurisdictions.
Right. And how did a couple haoles like ourselves end up here? I might have a different story, but tell us a little bit about, I guess, your background, how you came to this island and found it. I don't think any people, like most people in the world, don't even know what Saipan is. They think it's Spain with a typo.
Right. And sometimes even when you put that in the internet, that'll be what comes up. So this region is called Micronesia. It is one of the three parts of the Pacific, the others being Polynesia and Melanesia. It's the smallest, most sparsely populated micro. And it's a mixture of high islands, so think Hawaii, and coral atolls. The United States, after World War II, had liberated these islands from the Japanese and was put under a trust territory by the United Nations. Now, one of the things that we ran into is that there was not any educational opportunities out here, and post high school. And back in the 70s, the United States expanded Pell Grants to allow for people from the trust territories to come to college. In my hometown, which is called Corsicana, it's in East Texas. Excuse me about that. If it is known to anyone, it is for Christmas fruitcakes or for our incredible cheerleading team, which was featured on the Netflix Cheer documentary.
Really? Wow.
But the
fun
other
fact.
thing,
That's a fun fact.
It is. And small towns in Texas, the Friday Night Lights thing, we often are looking for things that distinguish ourselves from others. And a big thing that distinguishes us is that we have a Micronesian population. And it's because of that move to expand educational opportunities. We have a community college called Navarro, or Navarro is how we say it, that brought out 6 Micronesians from what is now the Federated States of Micronesia back in the 70s, and enough stayed that became a toehold. And now, I went to high school with a bunch of folks whose parents are from here. It's always been an area that I've known about and been interested about. When I started practicing law in 2012, it was sort of on the back of my mind that, at some point I'd like to come out here. In 2017, some of the local Micronesians from my hometown reached out with some questions about immigration that I tried to get solved because they have a very unique status with us. They are under what's called the Compact of Free Association. So they are a tick above an allied nation. We control, we do a lot of funding of their government. We also handle their national defense. These are very small nations, sometimes only 20,000 people or so. They have local administration, they're sovereign nations, but they're freely associated with us. One thing that means is that they have almost everything a green card gets you except a green card. And so every 5 years, the treaty has to be renegotiated, and they have work authorization, visa-less entry and exit. So whenever that was up in the air around 2017, there was a lot of fear that suddenly they were going to be targets of deportation. So I started doing legal work on the public-facing side for the Micronesians once I realized that there was no one else really doing that. Fortunately, the contract went through, or the compact went through again. COVID hit, and then in 2023, I was asked by the government to come out here and try a case that was for one of the former government officials. The other thing that has been a key aspect of my legal work and research. I'm a trial attorney, but I've always had white-collar crime and corruption cases that I've been interested in a while.
Yeah.
I thought it was just going to be a 3-month commitment, and I could check the box and say I'm done. I celebrated my 3-year Saipan anniversary last week.
Nice.
It's a common story. People either don't make it through the first weekend, or they're 38 years into a 2-year contract.
Right. Okay, well, that is a very, very broad, very wide kind of background. So let's kind of focus in on the law portion of it. So when you're growing up in Texas, right? Bunch of football is probably the biggest thing around. You got the cheer stuff. When did you decide, okay, I want to get into law? Do you remember that moment when you said, you know what, I want to be a lawyer?
Well, back when I went to law school was kind of right before the 2008 financial crisis.
Okay, and where did you go, by the way?
I went to Harvard Law School. Just
a casual school, not too hard to get into, right?
I went to an undergrad called Rhodes College in Memphis, Tennessee.
Uh-huh.
I didn't really know if I was going to be good at college. I knew I was good at high school, but I went to I'm from a very small town, and so we had modest academic expectations, not in my family, but in the school. So it wasn't until I was in college that I realized that I would be able to keep pushing. Harvard is a very large law school. Mm-hmm. I didn't really know what type of law. It's when I did get into anti-corruption work, but that's not really a career you can jump into right away.
Right.
So I actually ended up going back home to my hometown to work as a prosecutor in the local district attorney's office.
After law school.
After law school.
After Harvard, you go back to Corsicana, how do you say it?
That's right.
Okay.
My plan was to develop as many trial skills as I could by just cranking through trials from low level up. I bounced around different DA's offices of kind of increasing sizes, ended up in Travis County, which is Austin, where I worked on child sexual abuse and murders.
Oh, wow. From the prosecution side. So
correct. I've never been a career defense attorney.
Okay.
And during periods of time, that I've been between government appointments, I've handled a handful of defense cases, but I've always been a prosecutor.
Okay. And so on this, coming back to the island, you were kind of contracted to come out here to prosecute a case?
That's right.
And
that's
it's
right.
supposed to be 3 weeks?
It's supposed to be 3 months. And
for 3 months.
Shortly after I got here, the judges swapped out. It's very common here because
Classic judge swap.
Yes, and the judges' interests were not to bring the case swiftly to trial.
Right.
And then they announced that they were going to have this big anti-corruption task force and asked me to lead it. So my contract was for 2 years, and that ended in July of last year. Mm-hmm. By that point, I realized that there was a lot of good that could be done here in private practice. So I took the bar here. It's just like an American jurisdiction where there are local bars. Government attorneys, because they need to import them, don't have to take the bar while they are government attorneys. But if you're in private practice, you do. So I took that in July of 25, came back in December of 25, and set up my solo practice.
Wow, that's amazing.
Thank you.
I can't imagine taking a bar that long after graduating law school. Was it difficult to get prepared to take an exam so long after school? I mean, you have a ton of experience, but going through that process, what was that like? Almost 15, 17, how many long removed from?
Yeah, I had taken the bar in 13 years.
13 years, okay.
But if you've practiced for 10 years, you don't have to take one of the big portions of the law school,
okay.
of the bar exam. You take the local content and then one other portion that's
okay.
essay-based.
Yeah.
So it was a one-day test instead of a 2-day test. And what's very Saipanish, there were only 2 people that took it at the time, is that was also the day of the large earthquake in Russia.
Oh, really?
And so I'm down here, not too far from where we are here, on Beach Road. And at the lunch break between the 2 big portions, they said, well, we've got to move you.
Yeah, watch out.
Because there's a tsunami alert. And so we went up to Capitol Hill, where the Attorney General's office is, and used their conference room But I was like, well, this is going to be one of the more memorable bar exam taking experiences when a tsunami disrupts your taking the test.
It's like dog ate my homework.
Yes,
like,
it is. It is a. People will not believe it if I said that.
Right, like bad excuse. Like there's a
bad excuse.
There's a tsunami last night. I couldn't get to take the bar. Okay, right. So what do you think is the biggest difference from the attorney's perspective in mindset when you're working a public kind of government contract versus the private practice?
Well, there's a lot of substantial differences that are general, and then there's a lot that are specific to the CNMI. Generally, you have to manage your resources in the private sector. You have a lot more control, but limitations when you are in private practice. In the government sector, even if you're in a poor, under-resourced place, there is a team. You can call a cop and they can help you with an investigation. You have people that handle your admin work. Those things really make a difference for when because you suddenly have to run a business as opposed to just be a lawyer. That's positive here and probably negative in the mainland because there's a different relationship with government service and work generally. So it's very hard to get staff that you can really manage because of the way the government's set up here. So I'm actually quite happy that I'm controlling those things because I'm at the point where I don't need administrative staff yet. I am partially because I believe strongly that any person's business enterprise, if they're going to be managing someone or an employer of any kind, they need to know how to do that job.
Right.
And be able to step in when they need to. So at this stage, first time I've run a business, so as I'm learning those things, I'm eventually there won't be things I repeat all the time. I'll have someone else do them, but I think it's important for me to know how to do them. Right.
Starting off, you're building this is your first independent kind of practice?
It is, yeah. Okay. First time I've been a solo practitioner. During COVID, there was, a 6-7 month period where I was doing contract work remotely, but that was not, that was underneath firms. So this is the first time it's been Kingman Legal Services.
Kingman Legal Services. Congratulations.
Right. Thank you very much.
It's an honor to be sitting here with you in this beautiful Garapan Beach behind us.
Being here has, being a lawyer is not always fun, but being in a place where just going to get your groceries, you see one of the world's most beautiful sights it's a real treat.
Yeah. And so when was the first time you discovered Saipan? And then I want to ask about your kind of take on the opportunities on the island for you, and then in general, like for the larger world who isn't aware about it, there are some unique, I guess, the way that the city, the town, this area is incorporated, fiscally, financially, taxes, there's a lot of benefits for businesses to be here. So first and foremost, when was the first time you came to Saipan? And then after that, tell me a little bit about, I guess, the opportunities for businesses here.
So if people know about Saipan, typically what they know is the Battle of Saipan, a big, important World War II battle. About 2 miles from here is the island of Tinian, which is where the Enola Gay and the Boxcar launched from to drop the nuclear weapons on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Or if they are European, they know it for something called the Saipan Incident, which is when Roy Keane of the Irish national soccer team was sent home for throwing a fit over Ireland picking this place as its 2002 World Cup camp.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. There actually a movie just came out starring Steve Coogan just a couple months ago called Saipan.
No way.
That's about the soccer thing.
What? Yeah. That's crazy. I had no idea.
So the connection between Texas and this region is long-standing. The Prosecutors Association actually advertises for when there's positions out here, as well as the Republic of Palau and the Federated States of Micronesia. Because I grew up in a community with Micronesians, a friend of mine that I had grown up with came out here in 2016. He's an attorney. to work at the AG's office, and he's still here. He met a woman from here and got married, and he's still at the Attorney General's office. And so he knew my work with Micronesia and anti-corruption, and he also knew that I've tried a lot of cases. They don't try a lot of cases here. It's a slower moving judicial system. So he reached out to me. I knew very little. It was a very quick turnaround. It's just when a friend asks for help, you help them type thing. And the firm I was in at the time gave me a leave of absence for 3 months. And then I had to make the decision of stay or go home. By that point, I had spent some time on the island, and it takes a long time to fully understand this place, of course, but I had known enough to realize that if I left, there probably would not be another person with my experiences working on the big anti-corruption projects.
Right.
So I decided to stay, and didn't know if it was going to be 2 years. And after some time, I was like, there's a gap here of people that are in the private sector, private attorneys, and there's a lot of issues with the diaspora, the people that I grew up with, that honestly, they left because they felt like they had better opportunities in the mainland. And a lot of them still have pending legal issues, and they don't have an attorney on the ground here. And when you're practicing law, it's very important to try and find your niche. And because of my background and interests, and I mean, I'm from a very small town, so I don't need a lot of urban amenities. I love all the outdoor stuff. You look up and it's sort of a more fati thing. You're like, well, the odds are too wild for me to question this too much.
Right.
So I've decided to lean into it and make Micronesia the focus of my legal work and career. How ultimately, 30 years down the road that's going to look, it's unclear. But right now, there are a lot of people on this island that need legal assistance. And in Texas, we have a bar association that's much larger, obviously, than here. And one of the things they've identified, it's a little bit like health insurance. There are a lot of people that make too much money to qualify for legal aid, or, with medicine it would be, Medicaid, Medicare, yeah, but cannot afford market rate attorneys. And the Texas Bar Association has an incubator for people that are trying to set up firms where they are able to serve that market while still paying their bills and living well. There's nothing like that here. So my hope is to subsidize enough with market rate clients to help out with folks that I will have to put on a sliding scale or take on contingency. Fortunately, this is not a very expensive place to live. I am keeping my costs low because I'm a solo practitioner. And if you are more interested in experiences than acquiring a lot of stuff, you don't need to actually make that much money. Right.
The beach is free. All the places are free.
One of the great things that Saipan did, Saipan learned a lot of lessons from other places. The compact was from the mid-'70s. It was finalized in the mid-'80s. They have easements on all of the beaches, including the resorts and people's private land. So anyone can walk along the beach, use the beach, because they looked at what had happened in other Pacific islands and what had happened in Hawaii. And there's a different relationship with land in Pacific Islands. The indigenous folks here feel like they are stewards that receive the land and passing the land on. And that's caused some limitations to investment, but it has also prevented the alienation of land. That's what they call it when there's foreign ownership rather than indigenous ownership. In Hawaii, for example, less than 10% of the land is owned by Native Hawaiians. Right. It is a well-intentioned and sort of blunt instrument that has had implications and results that were not anticipated. It's still very controversial, but it accomplished what they hoped for, which was to not turn into Saipan, or not turn into Guam, turn into Guam or Honolulu.
For lack of a better term, like,
to American.
yeah, giving away too much of like the equity in the land to outside investors who only want to extract profit.
Within a 40-year period, 4 different empires rolled through this place.
I'm actually a product of, tell me about the history and I'll tell you about how I'm a product of that.
Sure. So first contact was Magellan, 1520s. First Spanish missionaries, 1680s. I am from South Texas, so the similar history, the Spanish colonial forces used pretty much the same playbook everywhere they went, and including out here.
Looking for gold,
and
Catholicism.
Here, right. and actually here, the way it was related to the gold trade was a system called the Spanish galleon, where it would take off from Manila, and it would go to Acapulco and go over land to the other side of Mexico, and then from there it would go up to Madrid. This was a important restocking, refueling place, kind of the first one or the last one on the track. They did not ever need to develop that much, but they certainly brought Catholicism. This is the surnames here are Spanish surnames. The Chamorro language, it's about 30 to 40% vocabulary words are Spanish. The Catholicism, it's roughly 98%, because the other big population here is Filipino. So we're in Holy Week right now. Easter was yesterday. On every Good Friday, there's the mountain, Tapachao, they carry a cross up. You see it a lot, but you also see it blended with indigenous practices, much like you do in Mexico or in Louisiana. That then transitioned in 1898 after the Spanish-American War. America had just acquired the Philippines, Cuba, Puerto Rico, places with millions and millions of people. The Spanish had eliminated or moved all of the native Chamorros from the Northern Islands and only put them on Guam. So except for a second population of indigenous people, it's about 1,000 folks that had moved here in 1815, these were empty islands.
Right.
And America, essentially to make a nod at, we are not like other imperialist forces, despite the fact that they had obtained quite a few properties at the same time, did not take the Northern Islands. That's proven to be a pretty cataclysmic mistake. Well, the Spanish sold it to the Germans. The Germans at that time took over the remainder of what ultimately became the Trust territory. It's also when they went all the way down to Samoa, throughout the Pacific. The Germans were very late to the colonial game. Their empire their nation was only founded in the 1840s.
Right.
So they are behind, and this is a place where this is a time when international trade is important. You need coaling stations. The Germans had a very light touch. There were only about 14 Germans here. They had an administrative capital, and that was essentially it. They did not. There were some Lutheran missionaries, priests that came here, but they didn't.
Tried.
Yeah, they didn't push out the Catholics very well. It definitely didn't take. They were only in charge of these islands from 1898 till 1914. Japan, a thing I didn't know, was actually part of the Allies in World War I. Did not know that. So they had a secret treaty with the English. Right when World War I breaks out, the Japanese come down and take all the possessions from the Germans within the first couple months of the war. There's no bloodshed. The Germans had, when the Japanese warships showed up and fired a volley saying we're here, the Japanese sent an envoy saying, "Oh, we'd love to return your salute, but we don't have any ammunition. Can we borrow some of yours?" To the Spanish.
Oh my gosh.
The Germans did, yeah. So it was a very peaceful transition of power. The Japanese had when they took the Spanish, it was took the lands. It was from kind of a different, mostly centered around Yap. The Japanese had sort of 2 phases of development here. After World War I, the Treaty of Versailles created a League of Nations. The League of Nations gave these islands, which had been administered by the Japanese sort of as a war holding for about 6 years by that point, gave them official mandate. They called it a League of Nations mandate over these islands. I'm giving a history lesson.
I was going to say, he went to Harvard.
Well, it's more that you cannot understand this place without. There are overlapping levels of each of the different cultures and civilizations that have touched this place.
Right.
And both sides of the Japanese development period are very important here. During the 20s, until they left the League of Nations in 1926, this was focused on developing sugar plantation work. There was there's a lot of things called Sugar King here that is named after a Japanese part of the original delegation that was sent to the West to learn practices after the restoration of the emperor. He actually studied at LSU, Louisiana State, to learn how
Japanese?
The Japanese guy did.
No way.
Yeah. And he came back out here and helped develop this place into a massive sugar operating place, as well as the neighboring islands. So there was
very interesting because like some of the other Spanish territories did that as well historically.
Right. That was the framework of it. They had to import a lot of labor, and at the beginning it was Japanese civilians. After they switched to military buildup and big state Shinto, and the military apparatus had taken over and essentially was controlling the emperor, and they were gearing up for what became World War II, the imported labor then became a lot of the Koreans that had been enslaved, Okinawans, which I did not realize until I came here are different than Japanese, not part of the home islands. So we had Okinawans and Koreans and Japanese civilians here, about 20,000, working the sugar plantations.
Wow.
World War II happens, and we say December 7th, 1941, but actually the December 8th is just as important a day, but because the international dateline is the same day.
Right, yeah.
So whenever the Japanese Imperial Navy attacks Pearl Harbor, the whole point is to slow down the naval response. So within hours, they are launching from Saipan, they are launching bombers, and they attack the Philippines and they attack Guam, and they invade and hold those islands for years until the 1944 in June. The same time D-Day is happening in Europe, D-Day is happening here, and the whole point was to take these islands, or take this island so they could take Tinian, a much more sparsely populated island, but Tinian is very, very flat. And so the whole point was to build as many airfields as possible. We had just developed the B-29 Superfortress, which had an ability to make it to Tokyo. So the strategic bombing campaign, long before the nuclear war, this was the busiest airport in the world, with launching a plane every minute. After the war, the Americans here, things for the indigenous population had gotten very bad for the Japanese. Under the Japanese during the wartime. So this was the first place with the civilian population that the Americans came to. So there were a lot of tricky things about that. But we actually have businesses here that started during the American invasion administration, that even before the island was declared clear and safe. The best bakery on island says since 1944, because it was a local indigenous man who Navy needed someone to bake bread. They taught him how to bake bread. This is a rice-based carb center, and the military side of development certainly was very important for the first several decades here. And you can see every aspect of the indigenous, the Spanish, Catholic, the Japanese, the German, and the American systems all overlapping on each other.
All here, yeah.
All here. And I think it is the most interesting small town in the world. I've spent 2.5 years trying to, if you're going to try a jury case, you need to know where you are. And even jumping from jurisdiction to jurisdiction within Texas, I always made sure I had an understanding of where people came from. You know, what's persuasive is an outpouring of what a culture is and what its history is. On top of that, I just find it interesting. I've been here 3 full years, and every single day I see something, I'm like, well, I have about 10 follow-up questions about that.
Yeah.
And if you're a curious person, there's nowhere else better.
How much of the different leadership and empires that have come through the island has affected the legal system? Is it pretty Americanized at this point? And what can you speak about, I guess, the legal history?
So it's probably too Americanized, quite frankly.
Okay.
Some of my early anti-corruption work was in South Africa, which is another place where...
Wow, we could dive into that for 2 hours.
It was a very interesting and good experience for me. It was back in 2010. But South Africa is another place where 4 separate nations combined under one. I was there in 2010, so they had only had a new government for 15 years, and they were still hammering out their constitution. They spent a lot of time trying to incorporate the more common law-based English system, the civil-based Dutch system, the Zulu system in particular. There's several indigenous groups there, but Zulu are most powerful and biggest population. And then a fourth demographic they have in South Africa called colored. And that was an interesting process to see. You know, a law follows culture. American law comes from English common law. English common law derived from hundreds and hundreds of years of court cases in England. It has, at its core, some basic shared experiences and ways of approaching problem solving. We dropped that system at the request of the locals. We dropped that system onto a place with a much more complex and different culture. So whereas the American legal system thrives and it is necessarily an adversarial system, you have to have open and direct conflict, and attorneys are supposed to be able to separate that from personal animus. In a small island like this, in a culture that is based on collaborative and consensus-building decision-making, that is avoiding of conflict. On top of that, you had the Japanese save-face culture that was instilled. The Spanish had very much an appeal to the higher authority, as did the Japanese. Those things, and you had a chief structure underneath that. Those things are not consistent with the way that problems are solved in the North Atlantic ways of doing law. I think that had we spent a little bit more time, granted this was all developed during the Cold War, so there is the thought of there's only one way to do it and it's our way. But I think that the recent periods have shown that you can't just drop a foreign system on top of a culture and expect it to conform exactly. We now had, they being the leadership here that did not want to be part of the remainder of the trust territory, they're quite different culturally than the remainder of Micronesia, they wanted the American system. The American system had treated them more fairly than the Japanese, German, and Spanish had, but the American government and American civil service organizations did not do what they should have done to make sure that the system was developing in accordance with expectations. There's a lot of federal money that comes here, and the way that oversight and strings are attached to federal funds is sort of different than here. Different than is expected. So there's a lot of folks working within this system that would not be working well if in the mainland.
Right. And since it's so remote and
out of sight, out of mind.
Yes, so out of sight, out of mind. You might have actors, different countries, different systems playing their own game out here. So
I consider this to be, I mean, it's a little bit like Casablanca. Casablanca was a boring small town in the desert until it wasn't. And this is the front line of what I call the Coconut Cold War. Whenever we negotiated in the 70s, it was only 3 years after Nixon got to China. China was a fundamentally different place. We probably would not have made the same deal with the trust territory generally, and with the Northern Marianas particularly.
Like if it was done today, all over again.
Absolutely
right?
not. And it had our primary geopolitical enemy been what it is now.
Because at the time, there wasn't China in the WHO, there wasn't China in the,
And 99% of Chinese people were living in rural areas on $1 a day. I mean, I'm making that number up, but certainly not what has happened in the last 50 years.
Right. Made in China was not a term that was widely used back in the 70s, 80s. So you're talking Cold War time is when the Commonwealth was established.
The first Cold War.
American system.
We are in a second Cold War now. Okay. That's what I'm referring to as the Coconut Cold War.
Okay.
And the
elaborate a little bit on that, because it's kind of a funny name there. It sounds a little lighthearted, but it's it is like.
So yeah, I mean, throughout the Pacific, kind of like the Germans, right? The Germans were looking for a place to expand in order to help with resources. And the thing with empires, especially autocratic empires, is you have to keep expanding or else you collapse. And here in the Pacific, we are part of what's called the second island chain, meaning there's a first island chain that includes Taiwan and down into the Philippines, and we are the second one out. This is a ground where different worldviews of how societies should be ordered are actively being fought out on top of a very sparsely populated population that is not particularly suited towards conflict. And so a lot of times, I mean, this place has been a pawn between whatever two great powers there are in the world for 500 years. And so there has been a culture of resiliency and sort of a new boss, same as the old boss, that they figure out how to get along and make sure that they're going to survive, and they will survive, even if this form of government, this particular instance of government is gone in 100 years. The Chamorro are going to be here. Saipan will be here. That changes the way that problems are approached. So the Belt and Road Initiative is what the Chinese have done in developing nations to increase soft power, typically not on American soil. But here they use the exact same playbook on American soil. And that's a particularly, I think it increases the amount of ownership we have over the problem, but sometimes it feels like we have more eyes on what soft power is being developed in other nations than we do on this place, which is ours.
Yeah, it's very interesting that it's happening for so long, and so little has been done about it, and so little coverage on it.
Most journalists that come out here will come out here for 2 weeks, focused on one story, but you can't tell the story of the current economic situation without knowing about the prior one, and the prior one, and the prior one. These things take a long time. With the death of investigative journalism, that's really limited the opportunities here. There also is a lot of retaliation for when people ask questions. So if they're a local person, particularly the monetary harm here, or even legal harm here, is the exact same as social harm here. Relationships are everything. And so being ostracized from your family because you embarrassed a family member by asking too many questions is considered to be just as harmful as a legal consequence or a failed business or whatever. That is different, a different mindset than we are used to and the way we do business in the mainland. It's not going to change. It's neither good nor bad, right? It's just a description of the culture. And we have not done. It is an obstacle.
Fighting corruption. It's the thing like switching a judge out. It's like.
Sure. It is definitely an obstacle to fighting corruption. It is a huge failure by the federal government. A huge failure for decades. But a people is not their government. A place is not their government. A culture is not their government. Whether it's here or in the mainland. I certainly hope that people don't read a headline about what's happening in Texas and assume that is me.
Right, exactly.
Same thing with the Chinese government. There are a lot of Chinese born people that are on this island that love everything about it and have no interest in changing it and don't want to be agents of what's happening in Beijing. It's just challenging in a place where everything's based on relationships, and there's very little division between public and private life to separate out a criticism of a government and a criticism of a person or a family.
Right. That's helping me understand the issue. It's not laws that people are breaking, it's like personal relationships. When you go after someone...
They're breaking both.
Yeah. They're taking it personal. And, okay. That's super interesting.
Definitely different than anywhere I've seen.
Yeah, and then having that, you mentioned the adversarial nature of the law in the U.S. Like, when you create that, it's hard to find solutions because you're not able to resolve the problems you're creating by starting a legal case, which is you're only starting it to solve a problem, and that creates 2 or 3 derivative problems that prevent the initial problem from being solved. And now you've got 3 or 4 things orbiting this case where now you can't actually talk about it, you can't actually get information from people.
A trial is supposed to simplify.
Right.
And here, in a culture like this, which there are many, it complicates.
Right.
And that we should have been prepared for, and we weren't.
I'm thinking Japanese, like imagine
Absolutely.
World War II Japanese, you get put on trial. That's like, I'd rather kill myself than go to trial.
And many did.
Out of honor.
Right, many did. But even now, right, Japanese, if you are going to go work for an international company and you're being assigned to Tokyo, they send you to a little boot camp about Japanese business practices, about what you might accidentally insult someone without even knowing that you're doing it, right? Just basic playbook stuff. And it's not normative. It doesn't say this is a bad way to do it, and either we are bringing our way of doing it or just grin and bear it because it's bad. It is just presented, this is the way it is, and if you're going to be effective, you're going to have to know that. We have nothing equivalent to that here, and so quite frequently, especially because people are on short-term contracts that are coming from the mainland.
Yeah.
It's a very small place, so they don't produce their own lawyers, doctors, engineers. No small place does. Folks will come here expecting it to be, we fly the stars and stripes. It's kind of resemble the way things are in the mainland. I expect there'll be some differences, but it'll be mostly the same. And they run right into a buzzsaw. They are not prepared. And I'm including myself in this. With even having a little bit more homework done before I came out here than probably most others, I certainly inadvertently caused offense and set myself backwards, especially when I first got on island. Another thing that the American government could be doing to help and is not.
Very interesting. Now with that full history, the full kind of legal history, now kind of jumping back into where are the opportunities, I guess, for you? Like how is it with this full knowledge? Now, how is it that you are coming into helping people? You mentioned some of the immigration things, but I would imagine that is more so a function of supply and demand and what you're used to. But your abilities to serve the people, I would imagine there's a larger spectrum. So what would you say, based on your full knowledge that you've shared, the history, where are the opportunities, for you to practice law, and what are the problems that you can solve that people might not know about?
So, I'm a litigator at heart. I'm good at trial law. However, this is I'm also a trained mediator. Like, I appreciate when things are solved before you get to trial. But what has happened with the brain drain in particular means that there are big gaps in folks that can access legal services of pretty much any kind. The other thing is that there's a lot of opportunity here. And if you drive around this island, it's almost everyone's like, well, wouldn't it be great if this, or wouldn't it be great if that, or that building would be awesome for this, or here's a good business model. Those happen all the time. There is a hesitation from the locals for jumping into that. And it's a well-deserved one. There is a 5-century history of people that more or less look like me coming in with not necessarily the best intentions, pie in the sky dreams. This is a con man's paradise, and it is increasingly becoming so. And you need to have some skin in the game to learn how to make those opportunities carry forward. There's a lot of beneficiaries of the status quo that don't want things to necessarily change, but that doesn't mean the opportunities aren't here. I mean, I can tell you a few of the places where I see that Saipan could absolutely capitalize. I strongly believe the town I'm from is about an hour south of Dallas, and there are still leaders there. I mean, the railway went to Dallas in the 1920s when we had oil, but they built the town thinking it was going to be 50,000. It was going to be what Dallas is. And there's still people that think that we've just got to do the right thing and we're going to become Dallas. Any place is what it should be is the best version of itself. It should be honest about what its limitations are and what its assets are. One of the issues here is that because this is the beautiful thing that people grow up in, there's a little bit of a tell the fish it's in water. Don't they? And so what is attempted to be replicated is the vacation that they want to go on. So fancy restaurants, fancy shopping, things that you can't do here. They think, oh, well, if we create that and that here, people will come. When actually what the assets are for this place are the fact that it's rugged, that there's still living jungle 500 yards away from the nearest roads. The fact that you have all these various cultures mixing and mingling together. Those things, I mean, certainly the fact that there's World War II stuff everywhere.
Yeah.
We have these reefs. This is truly unique in America. It's also, Saipan is the most consistent weather in the world.
Really?
Yes. It is even compared to Tinian, it is between 81 and 85 every day. If you know the ocean, there are seasons, but if you're just looking at temperature and rainfall, it's the most consistent weather. So there are ways to lean into that we have not done. We are very reliant on the Asian tourism market. We do not need to be. That'll always be a big part of it. We have world-class golf resorts here that especially the South Koreans are very interested in. Our scuba is destination scuba. It is always going to be too far for 2-week-long family vacations. It's going to be too far and too expensive. Hawaii is between here and there. If they want to sit on the beach, there's other opportunities. But snowbirds, 3-month-long stays, people either staying out of the winter or the summer. Yes, it's a 24-hour travel day, but you can't tell me that is more inconvenient than 5 days in a Winnebago to go park in an RV lot.
I was going to say, you could be traveling in the air instead of sitting in the cold.
Absolutely.
It's snowing where you're at anyways, just spend 24 hours traveling.
And then when you get there, you are not on a Gulf Coast beach.
Right.
You are looking at this.
And it's really incredible. The colors, like you can't even pick it up on the camera. At sunset, every time I see the sun reflecting against the water and it turns into a fiery orange, pink, reddish, it's
colors you've never seen before.
It inspires a sense of awe within you, and you just can't help but marvel at how beautiful it is.
And it never gets old.
And it's probably a lot cleaner than Florida. I'll tell you that.
Certainly the water is. The visibility is incredible here. We have, there's some biological reasons for that. It's even clearer than it is in Guam. The trench is close by, so there's some interesting biological stuff. The other thing, which kind of goes into my other big idea for long-term American projects, study abroad.
Yeah.
You don't have to mess with visas. You can do East Asian language immersion. You can do World War II history. You can do anything related to
biologics.
Coral reef ecology, biology, forestry, jungle, anything like that.
Soil talks. Yep.
I went to a beach recently called Infinity Pool, and just sitting there, kind of looking around, and we thought, you know what? Every single thing that's contained in a 9th grade earth sciences class is present right here.
Yeah.
From erosion to geology to wind, just in one space, right? That is really unique. And we could easily, universities are recession proof. Tourism is very recession dependent. And decisions made in Seoul and Tokyo and Beijing and in DC can, at a moment, cripple a tourism economy in a place like this. That's going to take some action outside of the central government because the central government is very interested in keeping things the exact same way.
Right. And less visibility, the better.
Absolutely. The other option, of course, is Hong Kong is becoming less hospitable to expats. And if you want to continue in Asian markets, this is probably the cheapest place that you can work remotely.
I was thinking when you said tourism as a recession dependent, but then you've got this digital nomad kind of, it's the time difference is difficult if they're working out of American hours, but if you're some sort of American or international entrepreneur and you do business in Asia, I mean, we're 4 hours, 3 hours from Japan, Korea, all over.
It's $300 ticket and a 3-hour plane ride. Yeah. I mean, and the other thing and we're about to move a bunch of Marines to Guam. Guam feels a lot different than here. It's had an extra 75 years of Americanism.
Yeah,
and this place
it's like a smaller Hawaii almost.
It is, and it's got military bases, but it's extremely expensive to fly from here to Guam. Too expensive. In Texas, it's the same distance as between Houston and Dallas, and there are super commuters that hop on $60 flights every day. Here, it's more than $350 to do a round trip to Guam. Yes, that has really stifled the economy. So has the cabotage, the Jones Act stuff.
What's that? The cabotage?
So you can't go between two American points under a international company's plane or boat. So you can fly from Tokyo to Guam, fly from Tokyo to Saipan. Saipan is on the way to Guam. So what you can't do is go from Tokyo to Saipan, offload, onload, and then fly from Saipan to Guam. And so that, you can do that with United Airlines, but not with Air Korea or T-Way or Jeju, any of the ones that serve to bring tourists here. It was set up, that law was set up long before they thought about these implications, and it would be a simple act to change.
Well, let's advocate for that, I guess, right?
That's one of the problems. We have one non-voting delegate. The diaspora is spread out, so as opposed to other groups of diasporas where they're sufficiently concentrated that they essentially have representation in Congress, our folks are spread out. Arkansas, Idaho, California, Washington State, Texas,
Oregon,
Hawaii. That means that we don't really have anyone bringing these matters to DC immediately, and that's a challenge.
Yeah, and it's far out, man.
It's very far.
You have a hard time finding it on a map.
You do, and people may know Guam, but quite honestly, they just know the word.
Yeah.
They don't realize that we even have another territory, right? It's, like I said, if you are a curious person, no place better.
Yeah.
You get to brainstorm about how to help things. Adventure tourism, these backpackers that go throughout Southeast Asia, it'd be easy to tack on a few days here.
Come to Saipan.
We've got rock climbing. We've got, or we don't have rock climbing yet, but we easily could. We've got these beautiful limestone cliffs.
There's a bunch of rocks you could climb, though.
Right. We've got these beautiful limestone cliffs. We just need to identify some folks that are interested in doing it. Trying to make this place have the amenities of a large Asian city we're just going to be a worse version of that.
Yeah.
If we lean into the fact that this is remote and it's one of the few barely touched places there are World War II tanks in the lagoon, not even a mile and a half from where we're sitting right now.
Yeah. And you go to Managaha, they've got even more. It's beautiful over there.
There's Japanese bunkers that are dotted throughout the island. Found a grenade the other day. That is...
No way. I was like, wait, what?
Yeah, the unexploded ordnance.
Did you pull the pin?
The pin was gone.
It was a dud.
It was a dud. A lot of them were duds, and it's been sitting there for 80 years. So I'm really hoping that it's. I took it. But,
right. Hopefully it doesn't.
My partner said that it was not allowed to be stored in the house, but we're giving it a while to see if. I don't know anything about chemistry, but it seems like we're probably fine.
Yeah, I mean,
as long as I don't throw it in the fire, it'll be.
If it hasn't blown up now, what are the odds?
Yeah, that's probably famous last words. But
well, one of the questions that I like to ask all the people I have is, what does it mean to you to be human? And I know we've talked a lot about history and war and government and law, but when it really comes down to it, this place was built by the people. The people that have come through here have inspired it. Laws have changed, wars have been fought, but at the end of the day, like, everyone here is a human, you're a human, and what does it mean to you to be human?
I've tried to be a practicing Stoic, wherein virtue is the only good, and you have an obligation to help the cosmopolis, is what they say. You know, if your actions should, you know, what helps the bee helps the hive is the principle. I think that helping other people both hits our biological impulses. We would not have gotten out of the trees and the caves if we were not social creatures, if we were not looking out for each other. It also meets our cultural development. Whatever reason it is that we see someone struggling and we feel like we must intervene to help that. Other animals don't have that. I think that loving your nature, acting in according to nature, is the highest and best way to move through the world. It's also probably the hardest, but it's like the Greek myth with Hercules choosing between what is going to be easy and what's going to be right. And this is a place where that is an acute choice. Sometimes in the mainland, I felt like you operate in the gray area. There's so much rat race stuff. Here you see sometimes real squalor, sometimes real joy in the same place. And watching a really condensed human experience in a small town is special. Normally in America, if you are going to live in a small town, you are signing up for a smaller world. People like you, generally, that are pretty content, not the people that leave. I grew up in a place like that, and it's a totally fine way to live. A lot of people are very happy doing it. This small town has 3 different New Year's festivals within 3 months from 3 different cultures. The local court did a video where everyone spoke in their native language, and it was 26 different languages in a jurisdiction of 50,000 people. It is a place where the humanness that I try to live by is very present. People don't accidentally end up here. It's a full of folks that have made choices to have interesting lives and experience whatever they can with the short amount of time they're given. There's no better place, no better way to live.
Yeah, that was a really good answer. I try to be stoic, but sometimes my feelings get in the way.
It's a practice, right?
Yeah. Marcus Aurelius, good guy. But as you were talking, you brought up some things that made me think about maybe some other people from the U.S. who get into a nice Ivy League law school. They're caught in the rat race, that gray area you talk about, where sometimes lawyers, they don't always have the best, I guess. There's a tale of two cities with lawyers. You know, you've got like the glorified version of the lawyers making a ton of money, and then you've got some people who think like, okay, lawyers, this and that. But from my experience talking with you here, I feel like you could pave a different path for people, and you could lead a different way for people to help people do good in the world and also, you know, earn some money. So for some people who maybe they go to the Ivy Leagues, they think, okay, I got to go work at corporate, big law, you know, I got to go to the big schools, make the 200 grand, 300 grand a year, become partner, burn out, retire. Like, there's another path, and I want you to maybe just speak a little bit to that experience that led you here, and any kind of advice that you would give to yourself when you first graduated law school about the path ahead of you.
So, and I forget who said it, but there is a saying about lawyers that they're either social engineers or they're parasites on society. And it's one or the other. I think that's probably pretty true. Our profession is broad, and there's a lot of people that are strivers that get into it. It's not a helping profession the way that being a physician is, for example. I've been quite disappointed in recent years because I take the oath that I took very seriously, and I've seen a lot of lawyers, including ones that I know personally, make moral choices that I consider to be not just personally egregious, but professionally egregious.
And what is that oath?
Especially for prosecutors to pursue justice. But you take an oath to uphold the Constitution, right? And the Constitution is a set of principles and values. And watching that being undermined has been very challenging, especially as a career prosecutor who believes strongly that the truth will out and it's worth pursuing justice. These have been hard years for that. As far as taking the golden handcuffs is certainly an issue. The overwhelming majority of my friends, who are good people, did do the move to a big city, do a white shoe law firm, attempt to pursue a partnership track. I think many of them are content. I think quite a few are not. I think sometimes, despite the frustrations that I've had sometimes out here, I think many of them are envious of the choice that I made. I think it's been easier for me to make that choice because I took a non-traditional path to Harvard, because I went to a bad public school in rural Texas, as opposed to Andover and then Princeton. And I went to a small liberal arts college. It was easier for me to say, I'm not going to do this track. Some of it's luck. Some of it's beyond your control. The fact that I was in law school during the economic crisis meant that there weren't as many job opportunities. Perhaps if it had been easier, I would have gone on that track as well. Some days I feel like this is, what am I doing? I don't have some of the life milestones that some of my peers have, house, kids, whatnot. But looking back, the experiences I've had have kind of led me to this point, even the disappointments. And, it's the love your fate thing, right? If where the needs of the world and your talents coincide, that's where you're supposed to be. Attorneys can do a lot of good, and it requires law schools and the bar associations benefit from things staying the same. And so, of course, the easy track that's paved out is seductive. It's designed to be seductive. But if you spend some time with people that really need legal help and legal help can be anything, you realize that it's a lot of lawyers, they only interact with people that are from the same class as them. They're worried about the drama of what's happening in their office or in their homeowners association. You only know what you know, what's around your bubble. But if you dig a little bit deeper and are willing to look outside, and you realize that the human experience for people that are much unlike you has a lot of similarities and a lot of ways that you can assist in a way that can be highly impactful and not just be one cog in a machine to help some partner bill a little bit more.
Right. Well, that's beautiful. As you're talking, I've got this beautiful scenery in the background, and I'm imagining your whole experience coming from this small town. You probably would have never imagined
Not at all.
to be here today. What's your daily mindset now, and what's on the horizon here? What do you see? What's your vision for the next 90 days? I had an interview where he's like, I only think about the next 90 days. Sure. 5 years from now, who knows? But like the next 90 days, like what's next for this next phase in your life? As now you're here, you're building your practice. Shout out to you for having it.
Thank you.
What's next?
So about half of the 90 days I'll be in the mainland. Typically, it's kind of ironic here because you do miss some family stuff, but when you do go back, and pretty much everyone goes back once a year for about a month or 6 weeks, you actually end up with more quality time with your people than if you just see them, for holidays. So I'll be back home for the first time since December. There's a Micronesian festival there in my hometown that I'll be giving a speech at and connecting people with kind of what I'm doing out here. My plan long term, not 90 days.
That's okay, yeah. It's 5-year vision. Let's talk that.
Well, I don't think that there is a firm that is looking at the entire Micronesian diaspora. There are 3 nations that are part of our compact, which are Palau, the Federated States of Micronesia, and the Marshall Islands. And then there's all these pockets of diaspora people in the mainland. There is not really anyone trying to bridge that gap. My hope is to have a presence in the mainland and here, whether that's expanding my firm in size or just going back and forth. Now with with digital technology and post-COVID, you can do quite a lot remotely. That'll probably mean some days that I'm getting up at 3 a.m, but
Right.
that's okay. Finding your niche, I think, is important in law, especially as more stuff can get automated. And fundamentally, the American government owes more to Micronesia than it is delivered. And I can't make that happen. And I can't turn back the clock. But the concept of America versus the American government are two different things. There have been incredible institutions that are not connected to the government that have been wonderful and to the Micronesian diaspora. And I want to join their ranks and be a force multiplier and help them with legal work or establish my own thing. There's a lot of work to be done. I try not to bite off more than I can chew, but my hope is that I kind of can help assemble a team of people that have a similar view of what's wonderful about this place and shouldn't change and what can be improved. And as far as the remainder of the 90 days, my firm has only been up and running since December.
Congrats.
Thank you.
Big time.
I passed the bar in October, and I am hoping to diversify my client base a little bit to kind of indicate that I'm here, I work hard, my reputation speaks for itself, and handle the how to start a new business stuff, basically.
Yeah. Well, that's great. I think you're off to a wonderful start.
Thank you.
Couldn't be in a better time. We're all here together today, which is great. And I'm a half Chamorro. I might not look it, but I think you've been a really good guest here. And
Thank you.
One thing I want to ask you, for other people who might be going through law school, maybe they're just a kid from a small town in a poor education system. What can you say to that younger version of yourself or that person today?
Well, the first thing would be probably take a gap year between college and law school, even if you get in, because graduate school is more of a job than it is like college. The second thing is to try a little bit of everything. Each of my summers in law school kind of dabble in a different part, and all it really did was eliminate things I wanted to do, which is totally fine. It wasn't until my third year when I had a clinical at the Boston municipal courts working in their prosecution world, doing traffic tickets and bar fights, that I realized, you can actually do a lot of good as a prosecutor because of the amount of discretion that you have and the way that you can approach your job. You don't know that going into it. All you know is what's on TV, and even if you have family members that are lawyers, you don't know. I think that there's so much noise when you're in law school about the immediate thing. There's a lot of missing the forest for the trees, right? But our history of legal heroes that have taken bold stands can really counteract a lot of the, I'm worried about this interview next week.
Or this exam, or
Right.
this...
Right.
Right.
Law school should be something that, it no longer should be the thing like, I'm good at school and I don't want to go to med school. For a long time, that was what it was. If you know what you want to do and you need a law degree to do it, that's a good reason. If you like where government, philosophy, and history combine, law school is a good place.
Interesting. Government law, government philosophy, and history, huh?
Mm-hmm.
I like two of those a lot. The government piece is a little tough, but the
Right.
government is made of its people, but it isn't the people. I think that's a very important thing. I think as Americans, our leaders, our government, whether we voted for them or not, it's not a reflection of who we are. Even you look at the people of China, the people of Russia. I have really good friends from Russia.
Of course.
I love all the people from all the countries.
Sure.
It's just the government that is in power that typically creates that conflict or creates that divide. And so
We all have a lot more in common than we have different.
that's true.
And the only way you learn that is if you turn off the TV and you experience, and you go travel, you go meet people that are different than you, and that takes effort. It's a lot easier not to do that. But knowing how much you don't know is a very liberating thing.
Yeah. Well, I just learned about this place. Let's give a shout out to the location right here.
Sure.
It's your friend,
Blaine. Yeah.
Who set this up here for us.
So we are in a hotel. The Saipan has used to have 100,000 people, and now it's down to 50. So there's a lot of repurposing of buildings that is going on. Blaine has a good vision about the digital nomad potential of this place, which I 100% agree with. Mm-hmm. And for my purposes, I'm a solo practitioner. I don't need to have rent on a building and pay salaries and all of that. And I want to support this idea. And so I have a membership to this co-working space, and I'm able to use, when I need to do, take meetings, have calls that I can't do at a coffee shop, for example, I'm able to do that here. They've got every... you have to drive around and do a lot of errands here, and they've got a one-stop shop essentially for everything you could need, and that's a person coming from the outside who's got a big vision for the world, but is making sure to partner with and get a lot of input from the locals and the way things are done. That component of it is a real challenge. Because a lot of people come in, the big ideas, and they think it's going to be just like everything else. And there's a very natural and well-justified hesitance to accepting that.
Right. Well, I think that's about all the time we have here today. Jim, one more time, your law firm?
It's Kingman Legal Services.
Kingman Legal Services. Where
Sure.
can everybody find you? Or if they wanted to reach out, if they have a legal issue in the CNMI, in the Micronesian Islands, how can we find you?
Well, we have our own, we are our own nation, so we have a domain registry, which is .mp. So my website is legal.mp.
Cool.
You can just email me at kingman@legal.mp. I have a Substack, which is jimbobkingman.substack.com.
Shout out.
Write about the island. Substack's been great for me getting what I want to write about out.
Man, I didn't even hit on that. We probably need 2 more hours to discuss all this, but.
And I'm on social media, Jim Bob Kingman. I try to express the interesting things I see here, good, bad, and ugly, as much as I can. And the more people know about this place, I think the more people will fall in love with it.
Yeah, I think if 10 times the amount of people knew about this place, I think you'd be 10 times quicker to carrying out that vision. So
I agree.
Hopefully we can do that in a great way.
Thank
here
you very
over
much,
the next
Chris.
decade. Thank you for having us here. Shout out to my grandpa Shota. He just passed away, unfortunately. So I'm here. He's Carlos Shota, Spanish surname, Spanish name, Japanese last name. I've got indigenous, Spanish, Japanese through him. So just wanted to, take a moment here to reflect on the people of this island. And
he was a very nice man and put a lot of himself into making this a better place.
Yeah.
And even though I'm about as all of my people came before America was America, as English as I can be, I believe that the beautiful thing about America is the mixture. And this place is where you see that mixture the most acutely. And it's the only place where instead of people coming to America, we've tried to bring the American idea to a place. It's a noble experiment. It's an experiment that the result hasn't played out. But man, it really is. I think it's both the best and worst of America, depending on the day.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, today it's been the best of America here with you.
I agree.
So
Thank you.
Thanks for being on.
Yeah. Thanks a lot.
Jim Bob, let's go. Reload.
I talk for a living.